Hello, world. Welcome to this week's edition of Golf Subpar. Colt Knost and Drew Stoltz coming off another exciting week on the PGA Tour. The 3M Open did not disappoint, Sleazy.
No, did not disappoint at all. I got to be honest with you.
It's time to open up the mailbag. I know you fans out there have submitted some questions for us. And producer Mark, what do we got this week?
All right, got one for each of you guys this week. Colt, you're up first. This is Rory Parker from Twitter. When did you feel that you were going to make it to the tour, and what was the most pivotal development moment to get you to that level?
Probably like even my senior year in college, I was off and rolling pretty well and was pretty high in the college rankings, but still didn't know if I was good enough to play on the PGA Tour. And I Monday qualified for the Byron Nelson and went out there and I shot 64 on Friday, not only to make the cut, but to be inside the top 10. And just to be in contention on a weekend at a PGA Tour event, my first ever one, was unbelievable and kind of gave me a ton of confidence going forward that summer, led me to win in the US Amateur, and knew I was going to go on and play professional golf. So I would definitely say that Friday afternoon at the Byron Nelson totally changed my perspective on the game of golf.
I thought you were going to say the Fort Worth Men's City
Amateur. Oh, that was a big one.
Which is also
that was a big one.
A big one that gets slept on a little bit.
All right, Sleaze, you're up.
Fire away.
Lee Rigby, also from Twitter. He has a bad memory, apparently. He wants you to work through the names of birdie runs after the turkey. He says he remembers the Pink Panther was one, but he's forgotten the rest.
Okay, here we go. Pretty simple. 1 in a row is 1. 2 is 2. 3 is a turkey. 4, you go after that, a little more rare of an animal, the water buffalo. 5, you're starting to get into rarefied air right now. Then you got the Pink Panther. 6, you got the very rarely seen Sasquatch. And 7, I came up with something the other day. I don't think I've ever made 7 birdies in a row, or I don't even know if I've ever seen 7 in a row, although it happened this week at the Colorado Open. I Googled like most endangered species, and there was like some like black-tailed ferret or something like that. And there's only like 150 of them left in the world, so it was like the black-tailed ferret or something like that. If I ever get to 7, you can name it whatever the hell you want, because I don't know that I've ever done it. And if I haven't done it yet, I damn sure ain't doing it going forward. So
after like 3 in a row, I start getting nervous.
Yeah, I just be like, I'm making a shitload of birdies right now, boys.
Let's just par to the house and get this thing under
up.
par.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for those questions. Keep them coming. Now it's time to get to this week's interview. Our first ever PGA Tour caddy, one of our favorite dudes on the planet, Mr. Joe Skovron, caddy for the great Rickie Fowler.
Yeah, let's get into him right now. He's got a cool story coming out. Caddying wasn't even really on his mind, and then whoops, one phone call one day can kind of change everything.
That was a very good phone call to receive, and it was, like we said, Rickie Fowler. But it's just cool to get the perspective from the other side. I mean, we've interviewed a ton of players, but to get the guys that are out there in the middle of the battle with them, get to see what these guys are like behind the scenes and share some really cool stories. Yeah, and I don't like to have guests on and ask questions about other people all the time, but he's had such a unique experience with Rickie, and we get a lot into Joe personally as well. But the story inside the ropes with he and Rickie and the way they interacted, some cool stuff, some pretty unique perspective that we haven't gotten before. For sure. Well, let's get right to it. Here's Joe Skovron on Golf Subpar. All right, it is our privilege to welcome on one of the most well-respected caddies on the PGA Tour. You know him as the caddy for Rickie Fowler. What you probably do not know him as is the former star quarterback for the, Temecula Linfield Christian Lions. Joe Skovron is in the building. Welcome, Joe.
Yes. What's up, boys? Did a little research, Stoltz.
How is it possible that I've known you for as long as I have and am just now finding out that you were a very good high school quarterback?
Well, it was a pretty small school, and that was a long time ago, so no one wants to hear about my high school.
And I want to hear all about it. He doesn't talk about all his past accomplishments nonstop like somebody else. Well, that's your problem. You got to and I didn't know about it. That's why you got to do it. Give me a little breakdown of the Joe Skovron tape if we're breaking it down 247 right now. What are they looking at you on tape? How are they analyzing you?
I think I would be called a game manager. Ran a bit like Phillip Rivers. Wasn't real fast. I could move around a little bit here and there, but it didn't look great all the time. Accurate, not a real big arm. Pretty good at breaking down a defense and kind of finding that way, but it was nothing that would impress you or jump off tape.
I had no idea either that you actually coached some high school football while you were in college.
I did.
Yeah, I feel like we hang out all the time, and I don't know anything about you.
I feel like I'm just meeting this man. Known him for a decade. I feel like I should introduce myself.
Yeah, I went back after my first year was at UC Santa Barbara, and then I transferred to University of Laverne. And actually, the reason I transferred there, D3 school, and I was going to play both. I missed football so much that I was going to go back and play both. And then I had a good summer of golf and decided that wasn't for me. I was just going to play golf. And then that fall, we didn't have fall golf in D3 at that time. So I went down and my high school coach had gotten a bigger job. And so I would drive like 45 minutes and go a couple days a week and then go to game nights, sit up in the booth. And I was like the quarterback's coach and scout up there for the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator.
Was it Coach Joe or Coach Skovren?
I think it was Coach Skovren, but I think most of the kids just called me Joe.
Hey,
I
Joe.
don't really remember
Hey,
that
barely
much,
idiot.
you know?
Let's throw.
I mean, I
run
wasn't
four.
much older than them, you know?
I want to run 4 fades again.
The disappointing part about that for me was that my coach, I was the first quarterback to ever throw for more than his running back ran for, because we didn't throw very much. And then all of a sudden when I started coaching with him, I was begging him to go shotgun 5 receivers. Like, let's do this. He started doing that and they're chucking it everywhere. So I was a little jealous.
Yeah.
You know?
But you were putting some points on the board. You're like air raid style coach. Offensive coordinator.
We were running a pretty wide open
Texas
offense
Tech.
at that time. It wasn't, the air raid, that hadn't really hit high school yet, but it was something similar to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, Cliff Kingsbury stole his offense from Joe Skovren.
And his look too, dude.
I wasn't calling the plays. I wasn't calling the plays. I was just coaching the quarterback and scouting up top. So
I love it.
That's fair
Well,
enough.
let's talk a little bit about your golf game, because you did go play college golf. You were an All-American at Laverne, D3 school. You tried to play pro for a little bit.
yes.
At what point did you know maybe it's time for me to hang it up?
Yeah, I think I still had some hope in 2005. I went to Q school in 2005 for the first time, and I missed first stage by 1. And I think going into that 6th season, I still kind of thought maybe I could figure something out. And then that 6th season, I played the US Pro Tour, and I got beat up pretty bad by Brendan Steele and Kevin Strillman and Tommy Gainey and all those guys. And I think I kind of started realizing it, and I hung on for a little while in 2007 and then just knew it was time.
Yeah, and then you actually walk into the head coaching job at your alma mater, Laverne.
I did. I started coaching there the 2008-2009 season. My coach left, and he asked me to take on the job, and so I did it. I inherited a really good team, and we had a pretty nice year.
Finished second
Little
in nationals,
runner
right?
Yeah,
up
we had a
at
good shot at
Nationals.
winning, and we had the National Player of the Year. So it was, I think I had 3 All-Americans on that team, so we were pretty good.
Were you
Coaching's easy when you got freaking
Yeah, exactly.
3 All-Americans
Yeah, exactly.
on the squad.
Yeah, I walked into a good situation.
Were you a firm, disciplined coach, or were
Yeah.
you more of a rah-rah?
My whole coaching philosophy belief was like, let's make practice harder than the events, and then let's go have as much fun competing as possible. And so like, I literally did a crip walk in the fairway at nationals when I saw one of my guys across the other way, just trying to loosen them up. So, I was still pretty young and like got along with the guys pretty well. And so like, we had a lot of fun. So my philosophy was a little different on that.
Do you get that at SMU ever? You
Yeah.
coach crip walking across the par
I was going
3?
to say, first time we've talked about crip walking here, but
Yeah.
My
Now,
coach-
Jay Lore did not crip walk.
I don't
across
think
any
old Wild Bill
fairways.
Monaga was doing much cripping around any events we were at.
Just trying to keep the guys loose, that was my whole thing.
How old were you when you took over that job? You were how old?
Let's see, that was 2000,
I mean, you're damn near the same age as the guy you're coaching.
2008. I was 27, I believe.
Oh, okay. You got a little spread on him.
So there was a little bit, but I did have one player that was like 24. So we were
Wow.
pretty close in age.
He must have been smart.
So
He's a doctor of some sort?
from another country, and like just his timing of school and everything kind of started a little later. So really good player though.
We'll get into how you got into the caddy game, but had you not gotten a call from Rickie Fowler, was that the profession you wanted to stay in?
Yeah,
Coaching?
I think that's what
Golf
I
or
would have
football?
ended
'Cause you're
up doing.
both.
No, I think it would have been golf because I could coach at the collegiate level. Football, I wasn't qualified to coach at the collegiate level. It was more of a fun thing for me. High school kind of a thing, but that's what I went to school for. I went movement sports science, teaching, coaching. So that's what I always thought I would do.
What would have been like your dream school to go coach at? I mean, obviously you're at your alma mater, but you're a Division III school. You probably
Yeah.
want to work your way up.
I think at that time I would have said SDSU
Yeah.
because living there and being from the San Diego area and the whole thing. And, but if he was going now that I live here, more like an ASU type of job would be fantastic, but anything D1 in a good city that you want to live in, I think is
Well,
fantastic.
it's a good thing none of that happened.
Yes.
Because the phone rang one day,
Mhm.
and who was on the other line? And who was on the other end of that phone call?
Yeah, so it was Rickie gave me a call, and the story kind of goes, actually, a lot of people don't realize this, that I was working a couple weeks at a time for Brendan Steele. Stoltz knows that. We might have talked about it before. So I would just do it for fun because I was coaching, and I was actually trying to run a clothing company at the same time too, so I had a lot of different things going on. And Rickie asked me to come do the Columbus event, and I was scheduled to do Omaha and Columbus for Brendan. So I had to make the phone call to Brendan and say, hey, would you have an issue with this? Is this cool? And Brendan was unbelievable about it. He said, no, you got to, go do it. Go work for him for a week. Because I said, hey, I don't know. I think this is a trial for possibly doing this full time. And it worked out pretty well that week, and gone from there.
Did you have any idea that phone call was coming? Like, had you and Rickie talked about that in the past, or any idea that he was considering you like, this is the guy I want?
There was one time that he mentioned me possibly caddying here when he got the exemption, but he didn't end up going that direction. So no, I didn't really know it was coming. I think his dad had mentioned it to me a little bit and some people in town, but I didn't really know if it was a real kind of possibility. And there it was kind of, like I said, it was a trial. It was like, hey, let's go see if it works. And it went really well. And then he said, you want to come in the fall? I said, yeah. Quit coaching and came out there with him.
Well, let's talk about that week in Columbus. So, he was an All-American, so he was an amateur playing that week, because the first team All-Americans get a spot in that, what was then the Nationwide Tour, now the Korn Ferry Tour event in Columbus. But I've heard you say that's where you knew you found out he was really special, and it's because of a shot he hit on number 10.
Yes, that's correct.
Out of the trees.
That's correct.
Take us through that shot, and then I have something else to ask you.
So my long-term memory isn't fantastic, but from what I remember about the shot, he'd hit it in the right trees over there. And he had this, I was looking low, like just chip this out, get it down there somewhere by the green, might be able to get it 40 or 50 yards from the green. We can get it up and down, we move on. And he found this little spot up in the trees. I mean, it's a spot that most of us wouldn't even pick as a possibility to get it through there. And I'm like, looking at it, kind of like, well, we can just chip it out down here, And he's like, no, I can get it through there. I'm good. And he hit this shot that it went right through this little spot. I mean, this spot couldn't have been more than a couple feet by a couple feet. And he hit this big high cut and got through there, knocked it on the green. And I was like, wow, this kid's different.
Okay. So now, veteran Caddy Joe, that's been with him for, 10 years. Mm-hmm. Do you let him hit that shot?
I think the situation would dictate it. I think with him, when we're in those spots, my whole thing is that I try to present all the options and then leave it up to him, because he can create and he can see things that I might not think are the percentage play, but he knows how good he feels about it. So I'll present all the options. And if he's stuck on that option, then you got to let him go and just trust him.
You had a lot going on. You were running the clothing company at the time. What was it called? Beyond the Green?
Beyond the Links.
Beyond the Links. Yeah. Yes, I remember that from our time in Arkansas together. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah,
you had the coaching going on. Where you weren't like actively pursuing caddying at any point.
No.
Like you were doing the side jobs with Steele here and there, but you weren't like, yo, what I want to do is be a caddy. It just happened that Rickie Fowler called you and like, this kid's special.
Yeah, I had no plans to be a full-time caddy. Brendan and I were really good friends. It was more just, he didn't have a full-time guy, so he'd bring a couple of his buddies out and we'd just take different weeks. I'd done it a little bit for Charlotte Mayorkas too, just as I did like 8 events for her over a 2-year period on the LPGA, just kind of helping her out in between caddies. But it was just a fun thing for me. It was never considered it being a career.
Was kind of your first thought when you saw the sleazy man Drew Stoltz play golf? Did it remind you at all of Rickie? Or was it that kind of the same?
That's a good
same
question.
Moment?
I get that a lot.
Yeah, that talent level of Drew Stoltz, it just kind of.
Weren't you on the practice round together?
We played a practice round together.
Yeah, with Andres Gonzalez.
It was Steele, myself, and Andres Gonzalez, and this is a true story. This is my first I just graduated college. It was my first nationwide event. At the time, I go out and play. One of my closest friends, Andres Gonzalez. You guys are friends. We come out. Brendan Steele, had never met him. I'm nervous. I don't know what these guys look like. After like
Tuesday,
4 or 5 holes, of the practice round, I remember looking at like whoever's caddying for me at the time. I was like, this Steele guy's not that good. I was like, dude, if this guy can do it, like I'm gonna murder these guys. They're terrible. He had these hooks going and all this. I was like, he's not that good. Now fast forward, he's won 1 million times on tour. He's made $8 billion. I was like, oh, okay. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good eye for talent.
Yeah, eye for talent. You got it.
I had it.
I actually had, if you don't mind me telling this story, I had a similar story with Andres the first time I ever met him.
Yeah.
Playing a mini tour event in 2006 at Oak Valley, where they play Q School a lot, second stage of Q School. I don't know if they still play there, but they used to. And Steele and I were going to the tee, and this guy just comes and joins up with us. I've never met him. I've never heard of him. Steele knew who he was, didn't tell me, and told me later that he was an All-American at UNLV and all these things. He literally topped it off the first tee.
He does that.
And he hit it out of bounds at least once, maybe twice during the practice round. And I was baffled, like through 9 holes. I'm like, this guy's playing in the event. And I proceeded to go out and shoot like 147 or 148 and miss the cut. And Andres shot 16 or 17 under and finished second, I think, maybe lost in a playoff. And I was like, okay. I guess he can play.
But I mean, if you play with him enough, not that this is about Andres, but if you play with him, you see some of that stuff. I've played so many practice rounds with him where he'll tee a driver up, hit it 50 yards right, tee up the next one, it's 50 yards left. I'm like,
this can be a week. And then he goes out and goes crazy. Yeah, he's like the all Billy Hoyle team. Like if you just walk down the range, like pick a guy you want to play, like that's the guy. He stinks. I'll play him, and then he's gonna go shoot 64.
Yeah, and that was when he was like, I get that. It was around that time when he was like dominating the Harmon Tour and all these different things. He was shooting 15 to 20. I just had never heard of him. And then that was like my start off with him. And it was pretty funny. And then
do you ever get out there with some guys like that are obviously rookies on tour or whatever, and you get paired with them and you're like, how the hell did this guy get out here?
Not so much anymore. I mean, I think it's kind of like the PC stock answer, but it's the truth. Like I've gotten to the point that I just respect everybody that's out there because I know how hard it is and I know how hard golf is. And I think anybody can look on a certain day, they can look pretty bad, you know? And so you know that they've got to have good stuff if they're out there. And so it just kind of depends on what day you get a golfer, as you know, like what they've got. I mean, I remember the first time we played with Phil was asking me questions and he wasn't playing real good at Torrey Pines that day. And he asked me, he's like, so do you think you could probably beat me today? You probably can't, right? And I'm like, no, there's no chance. Like, don't worry about that. There's no chance of that. But you know, everybody has their days like that, you know?
But how cool is it though? You're caddying for one of the best players in the world, obviously, but also one of the most well-known players in the world. I mean, it's got to be so cool every week, you know, massive galleries following you everywhere. I mean, the kid gets pulled from every which direction asking for autographs and all this. I mean, it's got to be really exciting going to work every day.
Yeah, I mean, I've been so fortunate to work for the guy I have and get the experiences I have between Ryder Cups and majors and, you know, the big events and the schedule we've gotten to play and how popular he is and how many people I've been exposed to because of that and how many, you know, great memories I have from all of that, aside from just the golf and competitive standpoint and of how good he's been for so long. So, yeah, my experience hasn't been the same as every other caddy out there. You know, I've been very fortunate.
When you grab his bag and he calls you out for this trial and then it ends up being a full-time gig, fast forward like 2 years from that, you guys are playing in Ryder Cups, you're playing in President's Cup. Like it happened fast. At any point were you ever surprised, like, oh my God, like this thing is rocketed even like you knew Rickie was special, but you're like, holy shit, this has been 2 years and now we're in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I think honestly, when we first went out there in 2009 in the fall and he played pretty well. I think he finished 5th or 6th in Vegas, his first start, and then almost won here. I legitimately thought, like, we're going to win 3 times a year. Like, this guy's, you know, like, this is what's going to go on. And then you start getting to the bigger events with the big dogs showing up and the golf courses and everything else, and you realize how hard it is to win out there no matter how good somebody is. So I think that was kind of like almost the opposite of what you're saying with that. But then you fast forward and we're in that Ryder Cup all of a sudden at Celtic Manor. And it was like, whoa, here we go. I'd never met Tiger before that week, you know, never been a part of anything like that. And it was like, we're already here. We're already doing this stuff. And, you know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll never forget that Ryder Cup in Wales. I mean, Rickie was obviously very young and we had just played on the Walker Cup team a couple years before that together. And I remember I was still living in Dallas and it was like 4 a.m. I woke up to watch this.
Yeah.
And I remember him birdieing those last 4 holes. And I was like yelling at 4:00 a.m. in my room. And I've heard that's your favorite memory caddying so far on the PGA Tour.
It's definitely up there. Yeah. You know, it's definitely one of those top few. Like everybody talks about the putt he made on 18 and everything, but the one he made on 17, I don't remember exactly how far it is at this point, but I felt like it was 20, 25 feet. It wasn't really one of those ones that you're expecting to make. And when that putt went in, that's probably the most excited I've ever been on the golf course when he's done something. And then on the last hole, it was kind of like, he's going to make this for sure. You know, you just kind of had that feeling, and he has that clutch gene in him. And when he gets going like that and rolls the putter, it's pretty special.
That was the most excited you've been. What do you think the most nervous you've been caddying has been?
I mean, nervous is kind of different because I'm not hitting golf shots. So, you know, maybe excited, or I guess maybe there's an element of nerves, but because I'm not pulling the trigger, it's not really like that. I'm trying to think if there's any moment where I've been like, man, I mean, I guess probably in the playoff at TPC when you had to hit that tee shot again. That's a pretty nerve-wracking tee shot when your guy's over it. You know, you're hoping that ball that ball gets in play and gets somewhere in that fairway, because there's not much margin for error there. So I'd say that'd probably be up there.
Talking about that first Ryder Cup where Rickie did what he did and it was so special, and you could kind of just tell, like, this kid's got like it, whatever you want to call it, right? But you guys were first timers there. I don't want to say you're happy to be there, but you're brand new and you got out there really, really quick. How have you seen Rickie's role in like the Ryder Cup locker room change from that point when he's the new guy on the block to where he is now, where he's been there a bunch of times and he's almost like the mentor?
Yeah, I think it's interesting how much younger golf's gotten. So, he was the young kid on the block and, the fun kid, and, he's 21 years old or whatever he was. And now, the last few, when you get in your late 20s, early 30s, you kind of become a vet out there. And I think he's just really taken on that role of he's the guy that can play with anybody, get along with anybody. He's still kind of the fun guy in the, when they're in the team room and doing that kind of stuff. He's always kind of got goofy outfits on and doing something that kind of gets everybody's attention and gets them laughing and doing that. But I think from a serious standpoint, he's taken on that role of like, to all the captains, like, I'll play with whoever you want me to play with, and I'll just go do my thing, and I'll just want to be a good teammate.
Yeah, he seems like the utility guy on like the US teams. Like there's certain pairings, like for sure, all right, these two dudes are going out together, these two guys are going out together. Rickie seems like put him with anyone. Is that the tone in the locker room? They're like, I want to play with Rickie, or this guy says I want to play with Rickie. Like everyone wants to play with him.
Yeah, I feel like he gets along with everybody and his game translates. So I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want to play with him. And he's the same way. He doesn't have anybody that he's like, I don't want to play with him. Just put me out there. I just want to play. So I think that's kind of how it's.
Yeah, that's the way it looks.
For sure. There's no doubt about it. I've seen it up close at the Walker Cup. He's the man. I love everything Rickie Fowler does. I want to talk a little bit about some major championships. Obviously, he hasn't been able to cross the finish line quite yet, but let's talk about the Masters. I know that's your favorite week of the year, Cadian. Is that the major you think Rickie has the best chance of winning?
Yeah, I think if you look at the history and how well he's played there, and it's the same golf course every year, I think you would have to say that would be his best shot with some of his performances there, how the course fits him, how he putts those greens. And then the other venues, it's so much, venue dependent really at those other majors. So, year to year, there might be some courses that fit him better than others. His golf course can translate anywhere, but there's always going to be golf courses that fit you better, as you know. The British Open, I feel like the conditions there really fit him and his imagination and how well he plays, and he's had some good ones there. But he's also come close in a PGA, and there's some US Open venues that are good for him too.
Does he get more excited for like a Masters versus an Open? Because I look at him and I think the Open Championship is a perfect place for him. It's creative. He can move the ball around. He can flight it. He's great on the ground with the putter and all that stuff. I see that place as a place that I really expect him to play well. Is he more excited or more ambitious, I guess, going into certain majors versus others?
I think all the majors are so important to him at this point in his career, putting a stamp on the career and, getting that first one and then trying to get multiple ones that, there's always a little bit extra excitement and just kind of readiness to go and you want to be there. But I would say if you asked him, he gets more fired up about the British Open and the Masters just because of his history there and the style of golf.
Has there been one major when you look back on it, you're like, damn, we should have won that one?
The Valhalla one was heartbreaking for me. That was like in caddying, that was the one that I felt like kind of slipped away from us. And then just everything that went down on the last hole and the way it went down, that one was tough. And then Augusta, he obviously came so close, but you felt like he did everything he could to win it. So it wasn't as hard to take when you got done because, he hit the shot on 18. He did everything he needed to do. Even 17, he made a great swing. That ball was 2 or 3 yards from flying far enough to have another birdie look, and he was charging, and Patrick got the job done. So what do you do at that point?
When you're in these situations and Rickie's nervous, he's trying to win his first major, whether it's a major or a regular event, every player has something that they do that kind of like is a telltale sign, like, hey, he's getting nervous right now. When you see that with Rickie, is there what is it that he's doing that you can tell, like, hey, I need to calm him down a little? And B, what do? Do you have like a default thing you talk about or something you do when you're in those situations?
Yeah, we had a lot more of that early on when he was a younger player, and his tendency was to start moving, walking faster, going through the numbers faster, trying to speed up the process. So like we would have times where we would have a rule the final round, he can't pass me when we're walking to the ball. Like he's got to make sure he's behind me. or I would slow up the cadence of what we were doing or take a little longer to get the number or whatever that might be, just to slow him down. He's gotten so comfortable and he's been around it so much now. You're always going to get nervous, but he's dealt with it so many times that you don't have to do a whole lot of that with him anymore. He's very good at managing his emotions. He's very good at handling situations. And really, like, if you look at the history, like when he gets to those last 4 or 5 and he's in it, like that's when he puts the hammer down and he goes, you know. And even though he hasn't won one yet, a lot of that's because we were too far back with 4, 5, 6 holes to go rather than him blowing a lead or doing something wrong. You look at the Scottish and you look at TPC and you look at some of the finishes he's had and the drives he's hit and the things he's done in the big moments. Augusta, even when he didn't win, you know, the shot he hit into 18 and making the putt, he's handled those moments very well.
He better not ever let me caddy for him, because if he has to walk behind me, he's going to be crawling. He'll be on the clock. Yeah, we're going to have a serious
We're
problem.
on one fairway, guys. We're going to need you to pick it up.
Yeah. But, you know, you say, I mean, he's unbelievable at controlling his emotions. But I know one of your favorite wins y'all have had was last year here at the Waste Management. Yeah. And all hell kind of broke loose in that final round. You had I believe a 5-shot lead with 8 holes to play. You're on the 11th tee, and then you're on the 13th tee, and you're 1 back. Yeah. When one of the worst breaks I've ever seen in the history of golf, when he chips it over the green in the water, takes a drop, rolls back in the water. What did you have to go to him and be like, hey, man, we got to refocus here? Or is he so mature that you didn't really have to say anything?
Yeah, not much. It had been a weird day before that, too. You know, we had number 3 was a weird hole and the stuff that went down there. And then we doubled 5 and all this stuff. And we actually had the talk on the way to 10 that, hey, there's always going to be these 9. We've always said there's always going to be these 9 holes that kind of get away from you a little bit. And you just got to manage it and then get right back on the horse. And he'd played so good all week. He goes and birdies 10 and then was in the rough there on 11. And we were just playing for short right. Like, you don't want to go long there. You didn't want to get something hitting on that green and kicking into the water in the back. And then it had just rained a little bit. That ball was a little bit wet and it didn't check and it skidded, and you know, everything happened from there. And just walking to 12, we were more concerned with finding out from Slugger what we actually made. Like, they were trying to figure that out and what was going on with the penalty and everything else. And we just wanted to know what we made and where we were at so we could go from there. And then I just got back into the process and just said, let's just get back into the process. Didn't have to say a whole lot to him. He was pretty calm. And we went and bogeyed the next hole too. And then kind of made a scratchy par from there. And then 14, he had, 45, 50 feet for a birdie. And he said, I'm going to make this. And he almost did. And I was like, okay, he's good. And then piped it down 15 and really brought it in nice. And 18 got a little interesting there for a minute. But that was the most rewarding one because of everything he had to go through and how bad he wanted to win that golf tournament and how many things had happened to us here in the past. We'd had some heartbreakers at this event.
Take us through that chip shot, by the way, on 18, because I heard he wanted to do something, and you kind of talked him out of it a little bit.
So he was thinking of possibly bumping it, and I said, why don't we just throw this up there and try to get it 15 feet by the hole?
Two-shot lead?
We had a 2-shot lead, and we had chopped it out to there. And my thought was if you try to bump it, there's kind of a slope there, and with it wet, if you got a weird kick, it could almost kick down into that bunker, and I just didn't want to mess with it. And even after I was trying to get him to throw it 15 feet by it, you know, he threw it 4 feet short of the hole or whatever he does. You know, he's so good with those golf shots and hit a really good shot. And then
that's funny.
You know,
how much veto power do you have if like Rickie's like, hey, I want to hit this shot, and you're like, oh, that's not a good idea. Like Bones has talked about, I used to have 1 veto per year with Phil. Like, do you have that when you're like, hey, Rick, I know you're really good, dude, but maybe right now we just punch it out and try to say par?
Yeah, we don't have a system for that, like a veto per se or whatever, but he's very good. He's always been very good with taking my opinion into account, whether he's going to do it or not. He'll sit there and he'll listen. And if he's convinced of something, he's going to do what he wants to do. And like I said, I'm just trying to present the options, and then it's up to him from there. But I'll push pretty hard if there's something that I just don't think it's the time and place for it, then I'll push a lot harder than I normally would, depending on the situation.
Has there been a situation where you pushed very hard? I mean, he was obviously going against you. You pushed very hard, and he went with you, and you were either right or you were wrong?
I'm trying to think of specific. I'm sure it's happened plenty of times, but off the top of my head,
18, you pushed really hard for him to hit the lesser club.
So yeah, we did in the playoff. We did end up going to the 52 instead of the wedge because that was the one that was going to get close. And actually, when you go back to the most nervous I've ever been, when that ball was in the air, because I had talked him off the wedge, and and he had to get all of that thing to get it there, but it was the one that was going to get close. And that putt, you hit it 30 feet past that hole.
Yeah.
You're just trying to tickle it down there so it stays on the green. So, and when that ball was in the air, like that was a little bit nerve wracking. That ball in the air and the ball in the air on 16 there's a good example.
Yeah.
I was trying to talk him into laying up.
On 16
On
at the
16
players?
at the players. We were so far in front of those guys. We had a number that he had to hit a cut 3-wood in there. And so any golfer knows when you're trying to hit a cut 3-wood, like one, you can overcut it into that water. 2, you can hit the pull, rip, send over that green left. That's not going to be great. And I was like, man, this is a pretty easy pin to get out with wedge. And so I pushed pretty hard to lay it up. And he said, no, I got this. So I was talking to that ball quite a bit in the air too.
Yeah, that one barely covered, then kicked
Ended up
left.
being right and worked out. And
You gave him a nice
there you
little
go.
fist bump after that one.
Have you had any big mistakes on the golf course where you did a distance wrong or messed up a club? Said I like the 8, not the 9, and he airmails it or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the clubs happens. That's going to happen, right? Caddy, and like, you're between a 7 and an 8, and you push the 8 and it's not enough, or you push the 7 and it's too much, and so that's going to happen. But I have given in my career, I've given 2 bad numbers, and they were both at BMW. One was in 2011, and one was last year. And both times he went and got it up and down, so that was nice. That's what you're hoping for as a caddy.
Do you
when
tell
that
him
goes
you
on.
messed up?
Yeah, I told him both times. So because it was pretty obvious, he thought he'd hit a pretty good shot. One of them airmailed the green, and I had walked the wrong way off the head. And then the other one last year, we'd gotten up there and just kind of in a rush, I guess, and I just kind of took a quick look at the head in the fairway there and assumed it was one that it wasn't. And we both were coming from the rough, and this thing like was all over it. We thought he hit a good shot, and it wasn't even close. It was 15 yards short. It was, and there's nothing in front of that green, so it was fine. But we're both kind of looking. We're like, did it come out that dead? And I started looking at the numbers, and I gave you the wrong number. And he's like, all right, no,
Don't.
And then he went and got it up and down, and then gave me a hard time a few times, just joking around the rest of the day. You sure that number's right? That kind of thing. But he's really good about it. And, so yeah, those are my 2.
That's gonna happen, and we had Stadler on here recently. His dad caddied for him in the Colorado Open, gave him like 30 yards wrong on one hole. After he like questioned it multiple times, like, no, dude, it's right, and then he hit 30 yards over the green. So
as a caddy,
It
you
could be
hope
worse.
that never happens, and you want that to happen as few times as possible, because it's one thing to miss a read or be wrong on a club, but it's a whole nother thing when you give a bad yardage. That's.
what's like Rickie's thing he does when he gets angry? Because like he's had the microscope. This is one of the most impressive things I think. He's had the microscope on him like nobody's had, for the last decade plus, and he never seems to mess up. He doesn't have any blow ups. I can't think of anything wrong that he's done. But what do you see him when he's hot under the collar? Like, what's he doing? How does he vent?
Yeah, he doesn't show it much. He'll talk to me about some stuff, or he'll say something, but he's really good with it. Like, he's really good at taking things in stride, and he might get frustrated or disappointed, but as far as like getting angry and throwing temper tantrums, it's just not him. We've had our moments out there where we've gotten into it. I can get a little fiery, and when you're in competition, you can both kind of disagree on something, and it'll happen. I think that's what's going to happen in sports over time. But as far as him getting angry, yeah, I can't think of very many moments where he got that way. I mean, he's always so good about acting the way you should and acting like a gentleman and taking it in stride, no matter how much it hurts inside.
Yeah, I can't remember a club slant, like anything, even minor
There's
like
no
that.
doubt about that.
Yeah.
But Sleaze and I are real big on nicknames, and you
Yeah.
don't really have one, which is
No.
very, very disappointing. But a lot of caddies do.
Yeah.
Give me some of your favorite caddy nicknames.
Well, Bones and Fluff are
Yeah,
definitely,
legends, obviously.
those are fantastic. Trying to think of other caddy nicknames right now.
Bird Dog.
Bird Dog.
Bird
Justin
Dog's
York
good.
is
Bird Dog's good. Yeah, I like that one.
I love Last Call Lance.
Last Call Lance is a
it's
fantastic
incredible.
nickname.
What's Casey's
Great.
caddy? The socks. What do they call him?
Johnny
Johnny
Long
Long
Socks.
Johnny
Socks.
Long Socks. Respect.
Yeah.
Identity theft, maybe from me. Who knows? I feel like he stole that
I'm
a
trying
little
to think
bit.
of some other good ones out there. I mean, there's plenty of nicknames out there.
8 Mile John.
What's that
my
called?
I call
What
him
does that
Amazing
come from?
John.
Oh, he's incredible.
What's 8 Mile? Is he from Detroit?
No.
What's 8 Mile John?
Davenport's the one who caddy me forever, and everybody just says he grew up on the other side of the tracks in 8 Mile.
Oh,
Because
okay.
he's been to jail, and he's got some tats and all this.
It's good to have that behind you, though. You know what I mean? You know if something goes down.
But then he'll always tell Pat Perez, he's like, have a blessed day. And so Pat calls him Brother John.
Okay. Have a blessed
There's
day.
Wayno Drano.
Yeah, Wayno's
Yeah,
good.
Wayno Drano's good.
There's some good Wee Man's out
Wee
there.
Man's another good one.
I think Last Call Lance is my favorite.
Last Call Lance.
I mean,
It's
so
Caddy-
Lance Timbrook used to play on PGA Tour, legendary caddy. He's caddied for Jesper Parnevik forever. Been for Ernie Els now lately.
Yeah.
But he's Last Call Lance because he is at the bar until it's time to go. Every time.
Respect. I feel like the caddy, there needs to be like a reality show that just follows the caddies around because they are such a unique breed and so cool. There's so many characters that people don't get to see on TV because they don't ever get the mic in front of them.
I nicknamed Julian
It'd be
Trudeau
incredible.
Zion because he worked 1 week for me and then quit.
One and done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one and done. Yeah, I like that
I had a
one.
lot of people calling him that.
I'm having to put too
I like
many
that
head
one.
covers back
Andy
on.
Sanders, I've been friends with Sanders for so long and like called him Colonel and all these different things, and I didn't realize that they called him Dirt in college.
Yeah.
It's like, so that's a great nickname too, Dirt.
That's good.
So
That boy could roll his rock back in
he
the
could
day.
play.
Man, I've known Andy for a long time.
And talking about how these guys need mics on. You guys were recently a couple of the first to volunteer to be mic'd up when they're coming back, right? They did it for the charity match, and everyone loved it. So you guys were one of the first. Did you guys talk about doing that, and how different is it? Are you aware that that's on when you're out there, and you guys changing the way you talk?
yeah, the mic's a little different in between shots. So you're definitely conscious of the conversations you're having with other guys. And we happen to be in a pairing that's a really comfortable pairing. So I kind of watched what I said, what I would normally say to Mike Greller or Justin Thomas or Jimmy Johnson or Jordan Spieth. So it changed the conversations a little bit. I will say that. I don't know how everybody feels about it. Like for me, I think that the conversations between the caddy and the player before the shot is kind of what people want to hear rather than what we're talking about in between shots. So I think that just provides value to the broadcast because you don't always know what the process is and what you're thinking about, why they're hitting the shot. When you get to hear that, I think it provides a lot of value for
Was
the
that
broadcast.
authentic when you and Rickie were doing it? Were you like changing it up a little bit? Like, hey, I know I'm mic'd up. I'm going to say it.
No, we didn't
this
change
way.
a thing when we talked about shots because you didn't know what they were showing, what they weren't. And we have boom mics with us. He's in featured groups so often.
Every
that
time.
He's got boom mics all the time. So you never know when they're on or off. So you just go through it and do your thing and you don't really worry about it. But I was definitely conscious of it in between shots.
Yeah, I heard you fart one time. That's what that boom mic doesn't catch that. You gotta look
Well,
out.
I know two of your best friends out there caddying wise are Sammy Penner, Matty Kelly.
Yeah.
Caddies for Cameron Smith, Mark Leishman. Yeah. Say you get paired with one of your buddies, because I've seen some other caddies do this. Do you and your buddies ever have any little side action in the group?
We've never had side action.
Really?
Yeah, we've never had it.
My boy always would bet, but it was probably against me more than for
Yeah,
me.
we've never had side action. We've always kind of just, every week it's like if we're not going to win, I want one of them to win, you know? So Maddie and I actually had 1 week a few years ago at BMW where Leash won and Rickie finished second. So that was a pretty cool day and it was a good Sunday night.
So because y'all room together and stuff a lot.
Yes.
So say one of you wins, does that person pick up the tab
You
that
pick
week?
up the tab for the week. If you win, that's kind of the rule
Love
with
that.
most of them that you pick
fair.
up the tab for the house. If it's a house, then you get stung a little bit more. If it's hotel room,
Is
then
it just a
you don't
win
get it.
or is it a high
Just a
finish?
win.
See,
for
that's
us.
the difference when you caddy for Rickie Fowler versus me. Like Davenport and his guys, if
Colt made the cut
if they had
and
a
he was-
top 10, it was they paid for it.
A lot of times, top 10's at dinner.
Yeah.
You pay for a dinner and
Sizzler.
do it that way.
Sizzler.
So,
Yeah. Who are the guys that if you see the tee sheet and you know you get paired with certain guys, are there guys Rickie loves to be paired with and that you think he plays better with?
I think Rickie likes everyone. So and
I
it
know,
gets
he seems
along
so
with everyone.
likable.
So I don't think there's really a bad pairing for him. But yeah, if he gets Justin or Jordan or one of his buddies, Duff, he's going to get more excited about it, right? And so yeah, I would say those guys. For me, like sometimes the player influences it because you're like, okay, we're gonna have some good conversations and this will be good. As far as like playing better with somebody, I know Sergio played really well with us for a long time, so he wanted to see Rickie as his
interesting.
pairing. If you looked at his
Why is
scoring
that?
average, I don't know, for
He
whatever
loves
reason,
Rick
his
or what?
scoring average, they get along really well, and his scoring average with Rickie for a while, man, and then he won that Ryder Cup match against us to become the all-time leading point getter last year, right? So that was against Rick as well. So he's had really good history playing with Rick as far as that goes.
They're doing these like I'm sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say they're doing like these super pairings. It feels like right now where now we're out of break. It's like the same kind of three, like Justin Thomas and Tiger get paired together a lot, right? They're all these like super pairings. Is it annoying at all from like Rick's perspective? Like, all right, dude, I'm gonna be with Justin Thomas and this guy again. Like I get paired with these guys every tournament now.
No, I think
I feel like they didn't used to
likes
do
it.
that.
Yeah, he likes it. He likes those featured groups. Last week was the first time in a while we haven't been in a featured group. But yeah, he likes those, and he likes the spotlight on and he likes everything that goes with it. So I think it's good.
Well, talk to us about playing with Tiger. Obviously, you've been around with him quite a bit. Is he full blinders on, 100% focus, or does he chat at all with you guys while you're out there?
So early on, we played with him. We got to play with him when he was in the middle of winning 8 times in 12 and 13, and that was the first time I'd really been around him out there. And he beat us at Muirfield when he holed that shot behind the green on 16. I think we were in the third to last group, and he ended up winning the golf tournament. And then Rickie went at it with him at Bay Hill in 13. And at that time, yeah, he's pretty into it, and he was pretty focused, and you kind of were almost nervous to talk to him because you just wanted him to start the conversation. He's Tiger Woods, and he'll talk to me if he wants to talk to me, and if not, and especially as a caddy, unless I'm really comfortable with somebody, I'm not going to go start conversations because some players want to be quiet. Some of them want to talk to you, so I'll let them talk to me. I'll talk to their caddies or whatever, but I kind of leave that up to the player on whether they're going to chat with me or not. I don't want to put them in an uncomfortable situation or, them be like, why is this guy talking to me so much or whatever. So I'll let them start it. But as time's gone on, I would say, especially on Thursdays and Fridays, Tiger chats a lot more, jokes around a lot more open. And as we've gotten to know him better, I think, that goes on as well. So
when he was when he hold that flop shot on the back of 16 at Muirfield, I don't know if you've seen the clip, but like your face when he hold it, you were like a kid in a candy, like you were like smiling. And I know you're Rickie's guy, and obviously, but is it hard to not just become a fan at that point? Like you're a golfer first and foremost. You grew up watching this guy win everything. Is it hard to not be like, oh my, like caught up in the moment and just be a fan at that point?
The thing that was different about that moment was that at that point we had such a bad day that we were out of the golf tournament. So therefore, you got to enjoy watching the greatest do his thing and trying to learn from it and see what he does and what goes on. And like, I remember just laughing because the golf shot looked so good when he hit it, but like no one holds that shot, and like for that thing to take that last roll, go in, and it's just like, and the place was going nuts, and Sabo was back there. I think Sabo was leading or one back at that point, and the message is getting sent back to him on 15. It was just vintage Tiger, everything you've watched on TV, and now you were a part of it. So yeah, you definitely started paying attention to that a little bit more. If we had been 1 or 2 back, then no, you wouldn't pay attention to it as much.
Andy might have yelled something really loud that not a lot of people know about, but we'll leave that for another day.
That's why Tiger doesn't volunteer to get mic'd up.
Exactly. All right, time for Emergency 9, or you got anything else?
Yeah, let's fire it.
All right, we do this with every guest. Joseph, Emergency 9 fun questions, just to learn a little bit of.
Don't overthink it, dude.
We do this one with everyone. There's a movie about the life of Joe Skovron. You can pick any actor, dead or alive. Who plays you?
I'm going to let you guys pick.
No,
dude,
this is not the
movie.
game. This is our show. You have to act.
Oh, man.
And I couldn't think of anybody, but
you're so modest, but go ahead and do yourself some justice here.
Oh, man.
I said John Stamos.
Oh,
a little older.
A little older.
Wow.
Maybe a little more
Well,
flow.
Joe's not that young.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
you're not
really
young at all,
I'm
dude.
real young.
I mean,
You are not a
39
child.
years old.
Are you 39?
39, I'll be 40.
Wow, making the turn.
Soon.
Making the turn.
Yeah,
3
all
O's
All right,
plus
well,
3.
Before we end this, you have to.
Yeah, you got to
you
answer.
have to give
us
an
one.
answer?
Yeah, and you can't be like, "Oh yeah, I agree with you."
Man, forget it. Let's just go Brad Pitt, man.
There you go.
Let's just do
Okay,
it.
Joe.
Wow.
Let's
In
just do
Troy
it.
Yeah.
or Fight
Let's,
Club?
Fight Club.
Fight Club. Yeah, skinny guy.
All right, number 2.
All right, here we go. I know you've seen this movie because you were a star high school quarterback. Varsity Blues, the movie Varsity Blues. Do you feel like you relate more to Lance Harbor or Johnny Moxon?
Ooh.
And have you ever seen a whipped cream bikini?
Very good question.
Johnny Moxon.
All right, reserved going to Brown or dark. Yeah, where is he going? Brown in that movie?
Moxon. Yeah.
Moxon. He puts his pants on one leg at a time. All right. Okay.
All right, number 3. Say Rickie Fowler retires or he's not in the picture. You can caddy for anyone else.
Oh, I can't.
Ooh,
answer
this is a
this
sticky
question.
one.
I can't answer that.
Come on,
Sticky.
Rickie's
I can't
not
answer this
around.
question. I'm
Ricky
Your dream
retired.
bag.
Minus Ricky.
Ricky is my dream
Ricky's
bag.
your dream
There you go.
bag.
Perfect.
But Ricky retires from golf.
Man. All right, first no answer to a question.
Is that our first
It's
NA?
tragic.
Okay, we'll let you
Tragic.
think on that too. We're gonna give you. We'll send these to you next time before we do these. All right.
Can
here
I
we
say
go.
Colt?
Gosh,
How about Colt?
Senior tour.
Colorado Open.
I'll go caddy the Colorado Open. Make a little
Perfect,
side change
yeah.
this week.
Okay.
100 grand, 10%, 10 G's.
Hey, I've heard of worse weeks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Next question. If you were to audition for the Golf Boys music group, what song would you sing for your audition tape?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Something you can dance to for sure.
Yeah.
Joe's
Yeah,
a big
he
dancer.
likes to move. I've seen it.
Bye in sync.
Okay. I feel like that's very on brand for the golf boys.
That's great.
All right, you know that by heart? You want to give us a
know
little
enough of it.
piece?
I know.
You wanna
You
give us
don't
a
want me
little.
to sing, but I know enough of it.
Okay.
Side question: is there a better PGA Tour caddy dancer than Joe Skovron?
John Lamonti.
Oh, John the Bod. That's the guy you said.
I know. Don't
You
jump
have a
the
big
gun.
crush on
Just
him.
leave this alone for
Oh,
right now.
okay,
Move
sorry.
on.
We'll go back. Okay.
He may or may not be referenced shortly.
All right. Next question. What is one thing you don't do because you know it'll drive Rickie crazy? Does Rickie have like a little pet peeve?
That's a good question. There's got to be something that Rick's very particular about how I mix his protein drinks or how I mix his I guess they'd be like hydration drinks. So he's very particular about like how I unpackage it and how I do it. And,
How-
you
he
know,
watches
the whole
How can
thing.
you
So,
how can you mess that
yeah,
up?
so well,
What-
you know,
what's-
I
what's he
can mess up
particular about?
anything at times. You know, if I get a little bit on the edges or something, you know, he's very good about, you know, and I just kind of rip it open and I'm kind of getting going and like I make sure it's done. But yeah, I would say he probably that's probably what he'd get the most frustrated with.
He's
me about.
not like DA points and has you sign a contract with all the things you can't do.
No,
Can't chew gum. If you
he's
caddy for
pretty-
DA points.
Really?
Yeah.
he's pretty
That ain't
good
worth
about
it.
that.
Yeah.
That
Rickie's
ain't worth
a little more laid back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a little
just
laid
make
back. He's
my-
pretty laid back.
Make my hydration drink perfect. You clown. All right, here we go.
You clown.
Getting into the aforementioned John Lamonti. How deep is your rivalry with Adam Scott's caddy, John Lamonti, for best looking caddy on the PGA Tour? Do you feel like you used to have a stranglehold on it and now it's been taken from you?
No, what's funny about that is my nickname for him is always number one. It's been number one. I call him number one.
You call him,
and then he jokingly calls me number two.
but is that based on
So
Looks?
based on his looks, that he's number one.
he's tough?
He's a
He's
handsome
a
fella.
tough
Yeah.
bastard to get
I'll
ahead
never
of.
forget because he didn't know who he was until he started caddying for Adam Scott.
I didn't know his name.
He
Yeah.
texted me one day. He's like, "This Joe Skovron has got a problem. He caddies for Adam Scott now."
We were at Riviera watching. We were
Yeah.
out at the tournament for the radio, and I was watching. I was like, "Dude, this kid's caddy, dude. Like, it's a
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
Scott's got no chance, and that's
No
not even a
chance.
knock.
Sleaze
on
had
Scott.
such a big man
This
crush
guy's
on
an
John
absolute-
Lamonti.
Between him and Adam Scott, are you joking me?
I know.
It's not even
It's
fair.
tough.
All right.
Tough
All
to
right,
beat.
number 7. The Players' Championship. Obviously, very, very close to you. Y'all's biggest win so far. But every Wednesday, they do a little close to the pin for the caddies. I want to know Joe Skovron's best shot and worst shot.
So I've hit some ugly ones. I think I've hit the shot 8 times. I've hit it on the green 4 times, and I've missed the other 4. I think I hit an ugly one, like kind of short right over there by the bunker over there in the water one year, and I haven't really hit a very good shot there. Like I think the closest I've hit it's like 30 feet.
Well, that's definitely not the worst, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen Sag hit it left of the water.
I've seen 2 shots that I legitimately fell down laughing when Shay Knight hit it one year, and we kept the photo. And Shay actually just texted me and said that he's working for Victor Hovland now, and he texted me and said he got it framed. And it's all of us like basically falling over laughing because his divot went further than the ball. The ball barely
that's
got
great.
to the.
Do you get any warm up leading? Like, you know it's coming. Nothing.
Some
You can't,
guys
like,
do
on
it. I think
16
it's
drop a
cheating.
ball?
I think it's cheating when you're dropping a ball and you're hitting shots, or you hit
not
it on
fair.
Tuesday or whatever. Like you're supposed to just show up there, make one swing, and see what you got.
Yeah,
I
I saw
agree.
Boyd Summerhays
Tough to do.
drop one and
It's-
hit it to like 2 feet.
First
I
off,
was
Boyd
like,
Summerhays
get
is
out
so
of
good, it's
town.
ridiculous.
I
He's not a
know.
caddy.
I know, but it was a joke. Just dropped a ball.
I know.
All black everything, like a hoodie.
Dude, he'll
It was
drop one on
105.
a driver on TrackMan and swing at 119 with 178 ball speed, and I'm like, you haven't hit a ball all day. This
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just in the DNA. You got the Summerhays last name.
All right, next
You're gonna
question.
Be good at golf. All right, next question. Who the hell is the scumbag actor that plays you in the Grant Thornton commercial, and why weren't you offered that role? I hate that fucking guy.
That's a good question.
He shows up and he's like telling Rick all this shit. I was like, that's identity theft, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why were you not ever? All right, so
Yeah.
Ricky gets this commercial. He's hitting
Yeah.
a shot, and the guy comes in and says all this.
I don't know.
shit to him?
Hopefully, the reason was because they were kind of making fun of the caddy and they didn't want to do that to me, and I kind of appreciate
It wasn't
that.
because of
I
your
don't
acting
know.
Or
chops.
after your Bushnell performance, they just couldn't afford you.
Yeah, you did. Shut
Or
it
they
down.
just realized how bad I was.
You
Or,
did
know.
shut it.
See, I was
hate
trying to
that
be
guy.
nice.
Have you ever
Yeah,
met that
thanks.
guy?
What's that?
Do you know who that guy
I
is?
don't.
Is Rick friends with him?
I don't know.
Yeah, you should look into that, dude.
He's a threat.
I'm looking out for you. Yeah, he can be eliminated. Just say the word.
All right, last question, and this is a tough one.
Okay.
Who's got the better chance of getting in the Hall of Fame? Phillip Rivers or Rickie Fowler?
At this point, you would have to say Rivers because Rivers is we've got a lot more wins to go. So hopefully we get there. But I think Rivers is, he might not be a lock, but I think he's pretty close.
Feel like
you think Phillip Rivers is a lock for the NFL?
I think he's pretty close if you go look at the stats. And he's won more playoff games than people think.
Who gets in first, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning?
Well, Eli's going to get in most likely first because of the 2 Super Bowls. But if you put their stats up against each other, Phillip blows them away.
Wow. Nobody loves Phillip Rivers more than this man right here. Except for his 14 kids.
Thought about wearing the Phillip Rivers jersey.
You should have. That would have been fantastic.
Yeah, collector's item.
I would have loved little baby blue one. Or is that what do they call that?
Yeah, powder blue.
I got a Colts one on the way too.
Do you? Oh, sneaky Colts fan this year. They could be dangerous.
Sneaky.
Now you got 2 teams.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, Joe, that was a blast. Really appreciate it, man. You the best.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate
You
it.
got it. Sleaze, I absolutely loved sitting down with Joe. It's so cool to get the caddies' perspective on their player and also other players on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, he's fun to talk to. One of the nicest guys on the PGA Tour. I think he and Rickie's relationship is a rare one. You see so much caddy turnover. Guys like have a bad run, get rid of their caddy, switching back and forth, trying different things. I think he and Rickie are going to be like the modern day, like Bones and Phil, maybe Grell or Spieth have a huge run out there because I feel like those 2 guys, they're both so easy to get along with, and they work well together.
They do, and I think it's just a matter of time before they knock off a big one.
Yeah.
It'll be huge for, obviously, Rickie and Joe, but also for the game of golf. I think if Rickie Fowler could win a major championship.
Everybody loves him. He's got people dressing like him in the gallery. He, along with, like, the way Tony Finau right now is dealing with when are you going to win again? Win a regular field PGA Tour event? That's what Rickie's been dealing with on the major side for a long time. You got to know, like, they want that off their back so bad. By the way, and you didn't know either, is it like a good high school quarterback growing up? I had no clue. Would have never guessed it from
game manager,
from Big Joey. Yeah, game manager. Yeah, exactly. Making the smart play.
I was very surprised he openly admitted to your caddy crush, John Lamani, being a better dancer than him, because Joe prides himself on his dancing, I must say.
Yeah, he can get after it a little bit. He's just kind of bending the knee to Lamani right now in all aspects. There's a new sheriff in town and the caddies on the PGA Tour.
But thanks to Joe for sitting down with us. It was a lot of fun. And we got to do more caddies. They have great stories.
Have great stories.
They can tell the truth out. They can really get.
If you really want to know what's going on out there, the caddies will give it to you 100 times more than the players.
I love it. All right, well, let's get to this week's gambling picks. And I think, producer Mark, I made up some more ground last week.
This thing's getting snug. Where are we at?
Things are getting snug, boys. First of all, congrats to Colt, Tony Finau, Max Homa. Two very interesting stories over the weekend. Mm-hmm. Top 3s each. Oof. Brought home $250,000 each for you.
Okay.
You also had Brian Harmon make the cut after you replaced Carlos Ortiz.
Carlito,
you got a bunch of guys bailing off your ship.
I found out his wife got coronavirus. I can give him a pass on her.
Yeah, that's fair. You do have a lot of guys.
I talked to him. I told him he was my pick, and he was ruining my shit.
You had a lot of scratches from the card late.
Drew, you taking the gamble on DJ?
Yeah,
did not work out very well.
I love that you said at the start, this is going to be a great pick or the stupidest fucking pick I've ever had.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, of course, he WDs after one round. You couldn't have just taken a knee before the event. Although I would say if he had WD'd, I was going to take Fleetwood second, and he miscut as well. So
it was a wash.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you did have Harris English finish T18 and Henrik Norlander finish T23 to help keep a little bit of a gap there, which is now down to a lead of $181,000.
I love this. This
Here
is where the rubber meets the road.
Coming
now
into a massive week as well.
Big swings.
WGC St. Jude Invitational. This is a big purse, Sleaze. There can be a lot of action here.
Yeah, and with the field that's in there, there's a lot of options. Like there's
45 of the top 50 in the world.
And there's some guys going off in the 50+1 category that are normally like close to the top tier. So it's wide open here. You got the honor, my man. So
I do.
Go ahead and make that pick.
I'm going to go with the 54-hole leader from last year's tournament. A guy who struggled a little bit on Sunday playing in the final group with Brooks Koepka. He's 11-1. In my opinion, he's the best driver of the golf ball on the planet. And you need to do that around TPC Southwind. Rory McIlroy is the number 1 pick in this week's draft.
All right. Going out on a limb, taking Rory. I respect it. I'm going to go a little bit further down. There's a lot of good players in this top tier right now. I'm going with the guy that I've been whiffing in my top tier lately. I've gone 0 for 2 in terms of making cuts with my top tier. Bryson, DJ, can't do that. I'm going back to the guy that I think is probably the most steady, consistent guy on the PGA Tour. It was between 2 guys, and I feel like they're almost the same guys. Between Xander and Patrick Cantlay, I'm going with Patrick Cantlay.
Ooh.
4th top 20s in the last 5, 8th in strokes gained tee to green. Never seems to have a bad week. Built for big golf courses. Let's go, Patrick Cantlay.
All right. Who you got number 2?
Number 2, I'm coming in with a guy that would have been my sub last week. Also missed the cut. Knocked a little bit of the competitive rust off. Tommy Fleetwood at 30-1. I blame that on not having played in a while, but he's like 23rd in strokes gained tee to green. He's only got 12 rounds under his belt, but he 4th place finisher last year. Drives it nice.
Does everything nice. And I like that pick. He did probably knock some rust off last week. All right, my guy. 2 of his 3 PGA Tour victories have come around TPC Southwind. He was not in the field here last year as he was dealing with some injuries. This golf course suits him perfectly. He already won a few weeks ago at Colonial. 28-1, Daniel Berger.
Took all my restraint.
Yeah, I
kind
kind
of
thought that's where you were going to go.
I was going to go with that. It almost felt like too obvious. It'll probably turn around and bite me.
And to be fair, if you picked Berger, I had Fleetwood written above.
All right, so we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
All right.
The 3rd overall pick, you're going to hate this because he's one of your guys.
Fuck.
Number 22 in the world, 15th in the FedEx, 14th in strokes gained total. The kid does it all. And honestly, the biggest whiff on career predictions I've ever done in my life. 55-1, Abraham Answer.
Who's this guy right here? Top of the list. Abe,
you can take
off
him.
the board. No, I don't want him. I don't like to have overlap on the teams. I think that's a very astute pick from you. I'm going with a guy that I'm very high on. You're very high on him as well. Also seems to do everything good, especially tee to green. He's going off 60-1. He hasn't played a lot and hasn't played well since he's come back. But Mark Leishman, best finish since the restart is 40th at Muirfield. Hasn't been great, but I mean hits it too good. Up until a couple weeks ago, he's number 1 strokes gained tee to green. Now he's like.
You just think he's due for a good week?
Yeah, he's got. I mean his game's built. He drives it great, drives it straight.
And you got to hit your golf ball around TPC.
Yeah, this
Southwind.
ain't like I chip and putt it good type of place.
This place is awesome. It's one of the most. In my opinion, it's the most underrated golf course on the PGA Tour.
Everyone on tour seems to say like TPC Southwind, one of my favorite places. Nobody seems to talk about it in terms of the best places.
All right, the final pick on Team Big Gravy, Colt Knost. Another one of your guys, actually.
You stealing bastard.
No, I don't think you're taking him this week.
Okay, who?
It's a guy that you just love, and he's never done anything for you.
I
That's
know
why
exactly.
I know he's going to do it for me this week. 19th in strokes gained total, 3 top 10s this year. Adam Hadwin. Come on with it.
Do you notice a trend here?
Oh, Canada.
My guys, next week you're going to have Corey Connors in there
No,
along
I
the
ain't
same
picking Corey
lines.
Connors.
You got Hadwin, my guy that's been my staple, always my sleeper, never gets any respect, just hits it perfect, putts it great everywhere. Can't knock that pick. He'll be back on Team Sleaze soon where he belongs. This second pick here, dude, I scoured for this. There's so many options in this bottom tier, and there's a lot of good guys. I eventually settled on this, and this could be another one of those stupid ones that I do, but I think
so.
the upside is very high here. Guy that's super streaky, been playing really well of late, Matthew Wolff. He's going off at 80-1. So his last 4 events, he's got a 2nd, a 22nd, and a 12th in 3 of his last 4. So he's playing well. He's streaky. He's not Mr. Consistent, but his good golf is very good. He had a top 25 here last year in his only start out here. With this being no cut, I like him more. I don't have to sweat out the no cut. And if he gets hot one day, I think he can really light it up. I'm going Matthew Wolff. It's a little off the grid. There were some safer options here, but I'm going for the upside.
You're really defending this pick. It's not
I'm going
up to
for
me.
the upside.
All right. Well, to recap, I've got Rory McIlroy, Daniel Berger, Abe Answer, Adam Hadwin.
Beautiful. Team Sleaze, Patrick Cantlay, Tommy Fleetwood, Mark Leishman, Matthew Wolff. Let's go, boys. Bringing home the goods.
All right. Well, that does it for us. Next week, another special guest, Mr. Aaron Oberholzer, will be in studio. Have a great week. We'll talk to you then.